Embrace her memory in those moments. Let us pray. Lord, we come to you today here at the beautiful Robert Toll & Sons Funeral Home at Palms Memorial Chapel, and we thank you for Martha's life and for providing this fellowship with her family and friends. Lord, I ask that you encircle all attending with warm memories so they can lift up and celebrate Martha and the sunshine, joy, and strength she showed throughout her life so she can continue to be a bright example to all, even in her physical absence. Amen. A poem that I wrote about Martha who shared a life of love. There was gentleness in her presence, a warmth in all she gave, a steady light for those she loved, a heart both strong and brave. She wore many titles beautifully, daughter, sister, cousin, wife, mother too, and a friend to so many, as she was always loyal and true. Her laughter lifted weary hearts, her wisdom calmed each fear. Her kindness was a refuge that drew so many near. In her embrace was comfort, in her words both grace and truth. She taught you all by how she lived the lasting strength of love and truth. She was your heart, a steady guide, your joy, your trusted name. And although family will still cry and still laugh, but surely will always stand so proud when they ever speak or hear someone speak your name. For Martha Denise Myers was born on January 19, 1954, right here in Sarasota, Florida. Yes, a true Floridian. And she was raised by her parents, Arthur and Geraldine Myers, who predeceased her. Martha is survived by her much-loved brother, Randy Myers, and his wife, Kyung. And thanks to them, Martha became the proud aunt to a much-loved niece, Erin Dean, who later brought her husband, Steve, into the family fold, and later, great-nephews, Cade and Coda Dean, joyfully joined the family as well. Martha is also survived by her adoring wife of 10 years, Joanne Larson, and her precious daughter, Kyla Marin Myers, better known to you all as Jules. You know, God finds a way to envelope our hearts with family, yet to some, friends are equally as valuable. And Martha had so many friends, for instance, Chris and Zoe from San Diego, and Brian, formerly from San Diego, now living in Fort Lauderdale. Yet throughout her life, there were so many cherished friends in California, Fort Lauderdale, and here in Sarasota too. And each friend, I've learned, was so appreciated by Martha because she loved having you all in her life. Now, not everyone in this life is gifted with love that lasts a lifetime, but for Martha and Joanne, they shared over 40 years together. And yes, it's true, they were known as the Party Girls for years, and they legally married him 10 years ago. And later, they traveled across the globe to become the proud parents of their little girl, Jules. Jules, I am certain your mom just so adored you. And Jules, your mother is to travel across the globe to find you. You were, and most assuredly, their chosen baby, now a woman fully grown. Imagine what it must have been like adopting a child from that far away from Russia. Martha having to go there first and identify the child, and then Joanne and Martha were there together to receive her. Imagine the joy in their hearts, even as their new baby cried as they crossed Red Square. Yet the joy in their lives was now in their arms, and life began anew with their beautiful new daughter. Through it all, Jules, you were worth those adventures, and you are the pride and joy of both of your moms, and that will be the truth forever. Joanne and Martha, you see, all those 40 years ago, met through friends in California. They dated per Joanne for about 5 minutes. Yet even though it wasn't love at first sight, they both knew instinctively they were going to be together. Joanne tenderly shared when she looked at a photo recently of she and Martha with a group of friends, she recalled that she had made a point to stand next to Martha, as she was certain that they'd be together. And 40 years later, it's clear that their love began blossoming from the very beginning. And speaking of precious family and friends, some will now participate in a candle lighting ceremony, lighting the path for Martha. When I call your name, please come forward and light a candle. Brian, would you come and light the first candle, please? here right now lighting this candle for you, I realize how many words I still wish I had said to you, and how many moments I wish I could relive. You weren't just my friend, you were also my constant. Martha, you knew how to make people feel seen and how to make them laugh when they didn't think they could. How to love in a way that asked for nothing in return. So much of you, of who I am, was shaped by your kindness, your strength, and your heart. And the world feels quieter without you, but it is also better because you were in it. I will carry with me every moment and every laugh and every quiet memory. And until we meet again, I will honor you by living in a way that reflects the beautiful soul you carried while you walked upon this earth. Zoe, would you come and light the next candle? Martha, I stand here today and reflect on how you were so often the heartbeat of friends and the soul of so many of our memories. Thank you for your open arms and heart, the words of friendship spoken and unspoken. You taught me to be strong, kind, generous, and this candle is lit with all my love. Thanks for the respect and all you brought to me in my life. Martha, I so loved how you made ordinary feel magical and how you turned simple moments into my lifelong memories. Chris, would you come and light a candle? Being your friend, Martha, was one of the quiet blessings of my life because it came so naturally. You welcomed me not only into your friendship, you also brought me into your family and into your heart. And you showed me through your kindness, your laughter, and your steady presence what it truly means to love without condition. You're a woman of grace, strength, and gentle wisdom, and I will carry the comfort of your friendship for the rest of my days. As I light this candle, I do not say goodbye. I say thank you for the love you gave and the memories you gifted me. You had a beautiful way of making the world brighter, simply by your being in it. Randy, would you and your wife please come light a candle for your sister? My sister, you had a heart that noticed everything, and a strength that never asked permission to exist. Today, as I light this candle, it is lit in how you could be thoughtful in the quietest ways, and remembering the small things, showing up when it mattered, and loving deeply without apology. But you were also tough and resilient and unafraid to stand your ground. Sis, you taught me that you can be both gentle and strong, be compassionate and fierce, and that living truthfully is its own kind of courage. I will miss your laugh, your honesty, and the way you made this world more real just by your being in it. But most of all, I will carry you with me in my heart, in my memories, and in the way I try to live a little braver and love a little better, because that's exactly what you did. And from Guam, Martha, my dear sister-in-law, I'd light this candle today for all the love you poured into my life. I know you never imagined you'd leave so soon, but as promised, I and your brother will stand beside Joanne and join her as we all continue to watch over your precious daughter throughout the years in your name. Thank you for being a guide, a storyteller, a safe place, and a constant steady light. This flame is lit because you will always be endlessly bright, yet gone from my sight, but always and forever near to me. Kate, would you come and light the next candle? Auntie, even though you were my great aunt to me, you were simply someone very special in my life. You always made me feel welcomed, loved, and important, and that is something I will carry with me forever. You had a way of showing up with kindness, with stories, and with warmth that made every room feel better just because you were in it. I may not have had as many years with you as I wished I had, but the love and the memories you gave me will last me a lifetime. And as I light this candle, I do so with a grateful heart for who you are and who you were, and how you loved our family. yourself so quietly that sometimes I don't think you realize how extraordinary you really were. In your presence, life felt steadier and warmer, and being your daughter has been one of the greatest blessings of my life. I always knew how deeply you loved me, not just in words, but in every sacrifice you made, every time you showed up, and every gentle way you guided me. That love is something I will carry with me for the rest of my days. As I lit this candle, I did so with gratitude for the life you brought to me, for the heart you shared with me, and for a love that even death cannot take away. I miss you more than words can say, but I am forever comforted, knowing in my life I was so very, very loved. And Joanne, would you come and light the last candle for your wife? My love, sharing the last 40 years of my life with you has been the greatest gift I have ever known. From the very beginning, your heart for others, your compassion, and your tireless desire to help wherever you saw a need shaped not only the world around you, but me as well. Bishop Downs. Jules, can you come? From the very beginning, your heart for others, you didn't just care, you acted. You showed up and you gave, and in doing so, you made everyone you met feel seen, valued, and important. Loving you has made me a better person, and living beside you has been the greatest honor of my life. And then, somehow, as if our love hadn't already given us everything we were blessed with, the beautiful miracle of becoming parents together in our late 40s, a gift beyond measure that still feels like holy grace. You are an extraordinary partner and devoted, tender parent, and I will forever be grateful that I got to walk that journey with you. As I light this candle, I do so with a heart that is broken by your absence, yet overflowing with the gift of you being in my life. Look at the beautiful family we built together. You will always be my home, and you will always live in my heart. Fly for me, my love, until we are together again. A beautiful family, excuse me, built together with all of you. For as we know, family, no matter how large or how small, is like a patchwork quilt, woven together piece by piece. And this family had its own unique color and texture, which added to the richness of all of their lives. Yet before all of this love, friendship, and family building began, Martha graduated from high school and then received her bachelor's in international studies from the University of South Florida. She worked as a career counselor and even did business reach out for Manatee Technical College. And I'm told Martha, she just loved her work. Randy shared his sister while she attended Santa Fe Community College. He would drive her there while he was attending the University of Florida. Yet when she transferred to the University of South Florida, he, this loving brother, was so kind and instrumental as he helped her get through all of the registration process, as he had already been through it. He also spoke of a time that Martha had fixed up a van and traveled herself on out to San Diego, California to live, and she worked out there as well. In fact, Randy and his wife Kwang stayed with her for a week, and when they all then went to Hawaii and made wonderful memories together. So many special memories to hold close during times like these, for it is our moments that matter the most. Jules sweetly shared her mom's career was helping others find a career. She even helped people with GEDs find work. Oh, and she sweetly shared that everyone at Mom's work knew who she was. Jules did attend Manatee Technical, and after school she told me she'd often be found in Mom's office, but everyone there knew her just because she was Martha's daughter. Jules shared she was going into advanced manufacturing until COVID hit, and thanks to Mom knowing the head of Goodwill, she helped Jules secure a job that she has proudly served in for 4 years now. Jules told me her mom was so proud of her working there, and even when thinking at times that she might want another job, nah, she's just so comfortable there. And a dear friend, Stephen LaPalme, sent the following to me to share with you all today. Martha had so many wonderful qualities. She was classy, kind, considerate, and loving. I think with joy of the times I spent with Martha and her family in Mexico and Alaska, Key West, and many other places. I had many opportunities to enjoy her excellent cooking and was always excited when I was invited for a holiday meal. One thing of many I will always think of when I think of Martha is her love of jewelry. So I have to put in a few quotes together so that I'm sure she would approve. Beauty is who you are. Jewelry is simply the icing on the cake. I love to be casual and comfortable, but I also love the easy glamour of wearing jewelry all the time. Elizabeth Tate. And finally, people will stare. Make it worth their while. From Harry Winston. Love you, Mark. From Stephen. Martha was also a proud member of the fabulous Manatee Chamber of Commerce and also was involved in so many other business and civic organizations, as Martha was a gal that cared about her family, but she cared about her community as well. Joanne shared that her wife was bright and outgoing, and she in her life, she never met a stranger. Her passion truly in her life was to encourage others to get an education, yet because of her gentle soul, the encouragement was a gift, not a pressure on each person she assisted. Martha didn't brag about the help she gave to others. She did it quietly. It wasn't for her glory. She really wanted to help people be better and help them with their educational aspirations. Yet from wonderful parties hosted by this amazing cook, happiness and laughter surely would ensue. To her love of travel, seeing and experiencing amazing trips to Lebanon and Europe, she and Joanne went to Europe many times and saw many countries there. To trips to Hawaii, the Caribbean, and she especially loved long cruises. And her brother agreed, Martha, she did so love to see the world. Kwong shared that her sister-in-law Martha collected things, even Christmas crosses, made by Reed and Barton Sterling every year. She further shared that Martha liked well-made, unique, and unusual things, and that she had been quite artistic. Yet Jules shared her mom also loved to shop online. She further told me that her mom would be online for hours, shopping and looking up trips and the like. And these two, they so loved cooking together. And Jules shared with me that when her mom fell ill, that Jules, she herself stepped up and would follow her mom's instructions in the kitchen, and she'd do the cooking. But when she felt better, Martha and Jules would again be found cooking together. Jules very tenderly shared that she and her mom were so much more than mother and daughter. They were best friends, and she acknowledged her mom traveled the world to find her, and that she does know that she is chosen. Joanne told me of Martha's cat, Misha, and also of Tom, the orange cat, as well as two dogs that are still with Joanne named Ohana, meaning family, and Leilani, meaning regal. Jules giggled when she told me that Ohana, well, that dog would get into so many things that her mom would yell at that dog and say, I'm gonna put you back in the pound. Of course she was joking, but he even got into her lipstick. And another time, he got into her bra. And so Jules decided to put that bra on Ohana and take a picture, as she figured if that dog wanted it, it should be on film. She showed it to her mom, and she laughed and laughed and laughed over that photo. Yet this wife and mom was also one that loved to go out, loved the beach, going to restaurants, because she was, as I was told, a gal on the move. She traveled for some work, and it did cost Jules a bit of separation anxiety when she would go to Kentucky or Kansas City, as she didn't get to go on those work trips, but she told me she was first in line to welcome her mommy home. When chatting with Joanne, she described her wife as a woman that was beautiful on the inside and out, and she lit up every room that she walked in. She was open to the world, and she would talk to strangers easily, and they weren't shy of her, as her beautiful smile surely allowed them to see the beauty she carried within. She truly did care about others obtaining their education and would even share ideas with workmen that worked on their home. She would help guide them to get educated so they could easily step into the trades after attending Manatee Tech. And if they did attend, she would even go so far as to help them find jobs. You see, per Joanne, her wife Martha, she so truly cared about helping and would often inquire as to folks' life path. And yes, she always, no matter what, presented herself well and dressed nicely. Even at the hospital, Joanne affectionately shared that Martha wanted to wear a pretty dress near the end, as she wanted to go out in style. She also told me of Martha's love of red lipstick and that she, Martha Myers, she loved that lip color even before Taylor Swift. As Martha Myers, per her adoring wife, Joanne exclaimed, "That Martha, well, she just had style." But one of the most touching moments Joanne had was one day she was with her aunt. And her aunt, frankly, is a very conservative lady. And she leaned over to Joanne and she whispered in her ear, "You got a good one." Randy described his sister as determined, competitive, strongly opinionated, and was a gal that spoke her mind. Yet even with all of that, she had a great sense of humor. Kwong described her as outspoken, yet marveled at how she always presented herself at the best. And when she traveled, Martha would be the traveler who would try different things, especially loving and tasting cultural food differences. She'd do that so she could bring back home those recipes, so she could add things to those recipes and make them taste even better. Because as a good cook, that is what she was. Jules said her mom was loving, caring, kind, and courageous, and funny how she could get her giggling just so easily. She also described when her moms would argue. Martha would say something funny like, "You're so nidely," and they'd make faces, and look at Jules and make faces. And Joanne would say, "You're making her laugh and this isn't funny." Sounds like Martha, she could bring joy to every occasion or moment, if not necessarily well-timed. So from all her big-scale travels, going out to dinner, attending concerts, being with friends and having a good time, this was Martha's life. And Joanne did admit they were party animals when they were younger, yet having Jules, it changed everything. And that having her was the greatest joy they ever had in their lives. Jules tenderly shared that sleepovers with Mom were so fun, and they'd stay in one another's room and lay in bed and talk about when they first met or when she was a little girl and just cuddle. And Jules shared, there's nothing that could ever compare to those moments. Yet from her being an adventurer as described by her brother when he fondly remembered their travels to Europe and to the Middle East together, and as he put it, their relationship, it improved as they got older. Kind of like fine wine, he said, because as kids, they surely did squabble. And even though he didn't want to believe she was ill as she was, he rests easy knowing that his sister is with their mom and dad and other relatives. He also fondly remembered Martha being at his wedding 48 years ago when he married here in Sarasota. These two Florida natives had a special relationship, and I know that the advice and counsel provided to him throughout his life, he truly appreciated. And Jules, yes, she still says, "Mom, I'm home," when returning from work. But I, for one, think that's A-okay to do that forever, as I believe Martha hears those words, and they still warm her heart and her spirit. This beautiful soul, whose cousin referred to her as the Pied Piper, as folks, well, they just tended to follow along with her, even down to the trips that were planned, and to how her wife Joanne so beautifully described the entertaining that she and Martha did, from large get-togethers to small ones. They were all so special because Martha's tremendous and delicious food that she prepared made it amazing. But Martha was also a very positive person. But let us not forget, this sassy and pretty little Sarasota native was also Little Miss Sarasota at the age of 3. And I've learned she was quite the precocious little girl and was a style maven from the very beginning. Stubborn, yes, which clearly became apparent when she was to be walked down the aisle at the pageant, and the boy who was to walk her down refused to do so, so she refused to walk. Seems to me she knew how things were supposed to be, and if not, she was out. Yet through her life, for Joanne, her desire to be of help to others is what so inspired her. How she could make a difference, and that she was proud of her wife, proud of her daughter, and that she lived to make that difference in this world. And I'm sure we can all agree that she did. Martha, it seems to me, through her life, she wasn't a gal to wait for life to happen to her. She made life happen. She didn't want to sit around. If she was up to doing something, she'd do it. So when you think back about a young woman who finished high school, got a college degree, and became a part of the higher education system here in Florida, and how her entire career she was paid to be of service to others, enlightening to them to the prospects life can bring if only you get your education. She married the love of her life, adopted a wonderful daughter from across the world, saw so many wonderful places on this earth. So I am sure we can all say that Martha Denise Myers had a well-lived life. So in care and respect, I will recite one last poem that I wrote for her today. It's entitled, She Lived Out Loud. She lived out loud, with laughter wide, with music, stories, friends beside. She danced through years both wild and free, and gathered life abundantly. A sister dear, a loyal wife, a guiding light in many lives, an aunt, a friend, a steady hand, a heart that chose to always understand. She knew both how to celebrate and how to sit beside your fate. She partied, yes, but deeper still, she had a strong and serving will. In time she chose a gentler way to become a mother along her way. Through work and care, through love and grace, even her daughter and others, she helped so many find their place. And now she rests, her works complete, her life a gift, her love so sweet. She leaves behind in all our days a world made better by her unwavering ways. At this time, I would like to ask Scott to step forward and share with us.
When Joan asked me to speak, I was a little apprehensive. Not that I didn't want to speak, but I wasn't sure what I was going to say. So, a few months ago, Andra, my wife, and I came down and had dinner with Joanne and Martha. She told a story I hadn't thought about in a long time. I'm going to share that story with you at the end. So today's a sad day for everybody, but I'm not going to focus on the sadness. I'm going to focus on what I remember about Martha. So today, Martha was many things to many people. She was a mom, a wife, a sister, an aunt, a friend, and lastly, my cousin. I'm going to miss her. She's been a part of my life. She's been a part of my life forever, because she used to come up and babysit me and change my diapers, and she never let me forget that. She always wanted me to tell that story. I don't have the time I heard it, but she wanted to do that. But I want to share a few things about Martha, and hopefully you'll see them in the story I'm going to tell. Martha lived in many places: San Diego, South Florida, London. And my brother Greg had the opportunity to spend the summer with her in London. And I want to thank the people from San Diego and South Florida for coming. She would have really appreciated it. So Martha loved to travel. She'd been to more countries, more continents than anybody I know. And she was eager to travel and experience the world. She loved to talk. For people who know, she's good. I could have a 30-minute conversation with her, barely speak a word, and I really enjoyed that. And I'm going to miss that too. She definitely had an adventurous streak, and she could talk to absolutely anybody and make them a friend. So that leads me to my story. In the late 90s, late 80s, we had the opportunity to go sailing in the Bahamas for a week on a sailboat. Let me set this. So the yacht's over here, and the ship we went on, sailboat, was over here. So Martha wasn't fazed by that. In fact, boat, the Shark 14, was probably 10 years past its prime when we got on it. But Martha didn't worry about that. So the first couple days of the trip, smooth. Then we went to Chub Cay, which is a small harbor. Then we spent the day there. Then we left that night, headed to Nassau. This is the night before New Year's. We hit a storm that I can't really begin to describe. It was just, it was terrible. But the sailboat was 65 foot, and we would surf down the waves. If that gives you an idea how big the waves were. There was a point I said, Martha, I better tie you to the mast so you don't get washed over. And she goes, okay. I mean, I think a lot of people are phased by it, but Martha said, okay, that's fine. So I tied Martha to the mast, and we're supposed to do this for 2 hours. Well, 2 hours turned into 6 hours. So I went down about halfway through that, and I said, we got to get relieved, because I mean, between the wind, the rain, and the waves, it was a long night. So I went down, you know what everybody's doing? They all had their life jackets on and praying. I said, ooh. So I went back up, and Martha says, what are they doing? I said, well, they all have their life jackets on and they're praying. She goes, oh, that's nice. I said, yeah, it was, and we laughed about that. So this went on and on, so 6 hours. So we finally make it to Nassau. The captain comes up because we see the harbor in Nassau, and they take over. So we sleep for a few hours. Then we get up the next morning, the sunrise, and guess what we did? We had a drink. Well, why not, right? So then we're sitting on the deck, and all the passengers got off the ship, and they were taking their luggage and leaving. Martha goes, where are they going? I said, I think they're going to the airport. They're going to fly out of here. She goes, oh, okay. I said, they'll be back. She goes, how do you know? I said, it's New Year's Eve. There's no flights out of Nassau tonight, especially after the storm. She goes, okay. A couple hours later, we're still drinking on the deck. Then they all come back, everybody comes back with their luggage doing a walk of shame. They never said a word about it. They put their stuff back in the boat, and off they went. You know, so I said, okay. So that night, we went out to a club and dinner. And we're talking about Martha talking to people. She met, what was his name? Hans, the drug dealer. I don't know if Hans was really a drug dealer, but for people old enough to remember Miami Vice, that was Hans, the drug dealer. The Rolex, the gold chains, and the dress. So that was Hans. So we partied with Hans for a while, then Hans left. Then Martha and I said, she goes, let's go find somewhere else to go. I said, okay. So we're walking around Nassau, then we found this party. All the expensive cars were there. She goes, I think this is it. I said, okay, that sounds good. But the problem is we couldn't get into the party. So Martha goes, let's climb over the wall. I said, okay. So I picture this. I shoved Martha over a 6-foot wall. Picture that. So before we finished, 3 more people came up. So I shoved them over the wall too, and I climbed over. So I thought we were doing good. We turned a corner, and we run into Honda's security team. Well, let's say they weren't very happy. So I said, well, it's not going to go well. Then all of a sudden, out of a sea of people came Hans. And he goes, Martha! So we come over, so he comes over and says, no, it's okay, they're with me. Then he goes, look at the other 3 people. Are they with you? Martha goes, no. So they had to go, but they didn't go out the front door, they had to climb back over the wall. So we laughed about that. So Martha and I had New Year's in the most amazing party that I could ever imagine. Couldn't begin to describe it, just thanks to Hans, the drug dealer. So that was New Year's. Then we sailed back, and it was as smooth as glass all the way back from Nassau to Miami. Because when Martha mentioned it at the dinner, I was like, I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but it was absolutely an amazing trip. And in a boat, I gotta tell you one thing. The boat almost sank, because when we got to port, the captain looked in the engine well and goes, oh, that's not good. The shaft seal had loosened up, and we were starting to take on water. And he goes, we've been out here much longer, we would have sank. Martha goes, oh, okay. Fortunately, we didn't sink. So that's the end of that story. And like I say, I'm truly going to miss Martha. The one thing I did say about Martha was, if it had been 6 days, or 6 weeks, or 6 months, it's like I just talked to her. And I'm going to miss that. So I'm going to finish with this. Do me a favor, when you get home, call somebody you haven't talked to in a while, because one day you can't.
That was beautiful. So today, as we prepare to conclude the life celebration portion of Martha's life service, might I suggest that each of you take a bit of the life that Martha lived and do what Martha would want you to do. Smile. Open your eyes. Find work that you love. Live large while you can. Get educated. Travel. See the world. Make wonderful meals to share. Be generous and help others. Dance, sing, laugh, love. Remember, but go on. You are now invited to join the family to take Martha to her final resting place. Please follow the instructions of our lovely funeral director, and I will see you outside.